Moving down the line here, let's go with Harrison Barnes.
Good old Harry.
Harry Barnes, HB40.
HB40.
Red wine. Will he see more rest this season? I mean, you can take that as should he see more rest this season as well. Because he did, of course, play 82 games. He's the only player on the team to do that. And then over the past 5 seasons, he's played 12,365 minutes, which is fourth among all NBA players behind McCall Bridges, DeMar DeRozan, and Jason Tatum. He plays a lot.
I'm going to group this one,
Sure.
this question with the Duarte one, because I believe your question for Duarte is, can Duarte put together a full season healthy, right?
Right. Or more or less healthy.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I just think it's going to really be dependent on Duarte because, I mean, like I've said several times over this podcast over the years, like Barnes has not really had a backup at that 3 position to him since he's joined the Kings. And we finally have one in Duarte where he can actually play consistent minutes. Like, yeah, we have Kessler Edwards now, but I don't know. I'm still not totally sold on Kessler Edwards. He still seems more like a matchups guy. Maybe he can really carve himself out a role at that backup 3, but I'm personally not convinced yet. So I think it just really has a, it really falls on Duarte. Is he going to be healthy? Is he going to be efficient on top of that? I mean, I think Duarte can be an efficient player. I know he didn't have the best year last year. Again, struggled with injury because of it. So if Duarte can stay healthy, 1, I think he can be efficient because of it, and 2, he can take those minutes off of Barnes. So I just think it's just very dependent on what Duarte can do. If he can be efficient and healthy, and I think if he's healthy, I think he can be efficient.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think there's so many things that it's contingent on. And I think another thing is, even if Duarte stays healthy, even if you feel like you do have good depth there at the wing, is Harrison Barnes going to want to take a rest? I mean, do you think Mike Brown was starting the season going like, no, I want Harrison Barnes to play 82 games? No, that sounds like a Harrison Barnes being the competitor that he is. That's his thing. So almost another thing that is contingent on too. Obviously, I think your point actually is a little more. That feels a little bit.
Are you going to bring up Keegan now? Yeah.
No. But with Mike Brown, is he going to be able to step in over Harrison Barnes and be like, hey, you're going to take this game off and I'm going to give you rest games throughout the season, especially later in the year? Because an important point to note is Harrison Barnes up there with Kevin Huerter, who we'll get to, did not look very good in the playoffs. And, we talked about Sabonis, the issues that he faced in a playoff series. Well, that was very matchup based. It just seemed like regardless of who the Kings were playing, Barnes seemed not himself. And he had a pretty good season. He kind of got off to a slow start in terms of 3-point shooting, but overall, he kind of had the season I sort of expected him to have. I just think that it's going to be key because he is so important in a lot of different ways. And you do have the extra depth. It just seems like a no-brainer that this is kind of almost on Mike Brown to just be the head coach here and be the executive officer and just override Barnes's intentions and ambitions. So I would just throw that out there.
Yeah, and sorry, I thought I was reading your mind back there. I also think, because I believe your question for Keegan is, will we see Keegan at the 3, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's going to play into it significantly as well. Because unlike, I think if you look at the power forward and even the center, like the depth of those 2 positions, it's a lot like wealthier than like the small forward position. And Duarte, yeah, it got a little better with Duarte. Again, can he stay healthy? That's a contingent factor right there. And then Kessler Edwards is, I'd much rather have, I think, the 2 backups in Lynn and JaVale to Sabonis and Vezenkov and Lyles to Keegan at the 4 positions a lot better than that 3 depth. So if you move Keegan to the 3 a little more, I mean, you have 2 great backups that can play that 4 position. Or and even if Lyles goes to the 5, you still have Vezenkov at the 4. And I mean, I think that could be a factor too. If we see Keegan more at the 3, then I mean, he's almost like a backup in a way as well as Duarte would be. Because even though Keegan will be playing starter minutes, Keegan won't need to hold down the 4 as much. Just because, I mean, we haven't seen Vezenkov play yet, but they seem to have high hopes for this kid. And I mean, we saw what Lyles was able to do last year. So, I mean, that's definitely going to be a factor as well, depending
Yeah.
on where Keegan plays. And it sounds like they want to move him there. So